Jugga, mic check. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. Welcome back. So, this is episode 3 of The Green Room, my weird blogging series. And today I want to talk about open mics, comedy open mics, and my first comedy open mic, and maybe what was unexpected about that, things that I learned, how the whole thing went. It was kind of wild. Part of the reason why it was kind of wild was because I did my first open mic literally the day after thinking about doing comedy. Like, I remember I had a conversation with a close friend and former work colleague who we had both sort of talked about it before, joked about it. Like, we both loved stand up, followed stand up, and we're both, it was one of those things like, yeah, we should do that, or I think I should do that, or like we both had that feeling about ourselves. And he was just sort of like, well, why the hell don't you go for it? And I was just like, oh, damn, why not? And then immediately started writing material. Like, literally, I got off with him at like 2 p.m. or something. And by 5, I'd written, and then I think by like 7, I'd filmed my first like 5 minutes of stand up. And you'll never see it because it was awful. He saw it and it was awful. And he was very supportive. But literally the next day, I wrote new material and went and delivered it. And the first bit that I did was the Russian, the linguistic fuckery, the Snake Island Ukrainians, that bit. And I wrote it that day in the matter of a few hours, and then just practiced. So that was my experience in going to my first open mic, was literally on a Friday, starting to write material, writing that bit, and then going like, is there a place where I could give that tonight? Like, this is insane, right? I literally just wrote this. I literally just started this. But is there a place where I could give this? And then looking up and seeing what was available in the Twin Cities and who was doing an open mic that night, and found a place that had a pretty good turnout. It was packed. Small place, but it was packed, probably 80 or 100 people. And got on the list. They had an online, like, you submit, and I got on the list. And they had all these directions for, get here early and like all this stuff. You'll have exactly 3 minutes. They'll flash a light. They'll cut you off at 3:15. Like all these rules. And so I practiced, right? This 3-minute bit I probably did over and over and over and over again over the course of maybe 5 hours, just to make sure I had it down cold. And I was nervous as hell, and I'm usually not nervous about getting on a stage, but it had been like 3 years probably since I had been on a stage in front of a bunch of people. Like, I gave a couple of conference talks, during the pandemic, kind of the work from home era, just talking to a camera like this. But it had been a long time since I'd been on a stage in front of people. So I was nervous. And this was the first time I was doing comedy. Like, I always told jokes during my normal conference talks because you got to keep people's attention. But this was the first time that was expressly what I was there to do. Like, if you're not funny in a conference talk, like, the bar is pretty low. Nobody really cares that much. They're there for other content. I don't have other content to lean on when it comes to comedy. If I'm not funny, it's just a shitty show. That's all it is. There's nothing else left. So I practicing on the car on the way there. Annie was excited for me, and she's like, if you want me to not come, I get it. And I was like, yeah, maybe not, in case I bomb real bad. So I'm driving by myself. It's like an hour to get to this comedy club. Driving just over and over, giving it, saying it over and over again in my head, these 3 minutes, and even making little changes here and there, iterating on it. And then I get there, I show up early, do the parking. I'm freaking out, like, oh, am I going to be on time? Of course I'm on time. I'm early. And take a seat in the audience like a dumbass, because you're not supposed to, as somebody that's going to be going up on stage. Usually there's a place for comedians to hang out that are waiting before they go up. But I take a seat in the audience, start making small talk with someone else that's there, and then just freak out for like an hour, because it's like a 2-hour thing, like, where everyone's going up. Everyone gets 3 minutes, supposedly. One of the first things that was interesting to me was that even though I was one of the first people to sign up, I was like number 18 on the list to perform. So this surprised me. Like, you don't go up in the order that you have signed up. They take the list after they get everybody that's signed up, and then because they usually know everybody that's on there, and the names that they don't know. And so whoever the MC is, they're going to go through and they're going to reorder the list, and then they post the list. And then I just sat there in the audience listening to other open micers for, like an hour, because I was kind of in the middle end. So just sitting there freaking out again in the audience, kind of half listening, but also just half going over the bit in my head over and over still. Finally, I knew where I was in the list. The person before me was going up. So I was like, okay, I got up and got ready to like go take the stage for when they come off. And then someone else was getting ready too. And I was like, what? So I looked at the list. I was still supposed to go next, but this dude clearly thought he was going next, and so did the MC. And so this dude goes up, gives his bit, and then the MC introduces me, and I go up, and I'm a little confused, but I just sort of shoved that aside and did my bit, and delivered my 3 minutes flawlessly, if I can be so bold as to say that, because I'd practiced the crap out of it. So I got up, I delivered my 3 minutes, killed it. And punchline, I think I was 3:04 was my time when I ended it, which is, they give you until 3:15 before they cut the mic, supposedly. That was another big surprise, is that tons of people went over 3 minutes. Tons of people. Like, there were people that went 4 minutes, 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 8 minutes, and the MC just let them do it. And I think I found out later that part of this is that these were well-known comics to the MC, and the MC was like, yeah, just whatever. You can take whatever time you want. The rules don't apply to you. The rules also didn't apply to these people in the other sense, which is that when I had gotten bumped, this was somebody else that had come in probably late and said, yeah, put me on the list. And the MC was like, I know that person. Sure. Yeah, you can go on. How about you go on here? Sometimes they'll even be like, where do you want to go on? Right? Like, they'll look at the list, and these people know the other 30 people on the list, which is ridiculous. That tells you how long some of these open micers have been in the series. Like, years. I'm telling you, that is actually very common. But they'll pick where they want to be, and they'll bump other people, and the list just changes, and that's just how it is, and you just have to deal with it. And the rules don't apply to some people, and it's all about who you know. So surprise, no different than every other aspect of life. But I went on, I gave my bit, there was thunderous applause, and, there were laughs when I wanted laughs. Like, I know that bit has a lot of setup that is hopefully entertaining or intriguing, but not necessarily ha-ha funny. But I think it went about as well as I wanted it to go. And then I got off the stage, and I stuck around for the rest of it and listened, and then I left. And I don't know what I was expecting, but it was an interesting experience to be a first-time comic, having never done comedy in front of a crowd before, to get up, to kill it for 3 minutes, and then to just walk right back into complete obscurity. It's not like Mrs. Maisel, where you get up and you can do amazing, but you're not going to have, like, unless you really are lucky and hit the right venue at the right time or whatever, like, there's no talent scout there. There aren't agents chomping at the bit to sign you up. It's not, it's not like you do one good bit and suddenly, like, whoa, get this man a Netflix special. Like, that's not how it works. And I don't think that I was expecting that, but I was kind of hoping for it. And it was just an interesting experience. Like, even the other comics, like, don't even acknowledge you. Like, unless they really know you, there's no acknowledgement from them either. And the way to understand open mics, John at Black Sheep Comedy, this is his joke, so this is not my joke, but it really perfectly describes the atmosphere of an open mic. And he says, an open mic is like a gangbang. And okay, yeah, so this is a crass joke. It's a comedian, what do you expect? But he says an open mic is like a gangbang because Nobody's giving anybody a high five. You're all just waiting for your turn to get in there. And it's so true. And in the open mics that I've been to, that's always been true. In fact, some of the open mics that I've been to, the comics outnumber the guests by 2-1. You know, there's 30 people that want to go up, and there's only 15 people in the crowd. And you're never like, there's a certain amount of support that you give each other. Like when someone gets off the stage, hey man, good set or whatever. Right. But it's mostly pro forma. Like it's not, it's rare to actually get laughs from the area where the comics are at as you're giving your bit. They're all practicing their bits. They're all reliving their bits in their head. 90% of them, as soon as they give their bit, they're out the door and off to the next open mic that night. It was weird. It's a weird space to be in. And I'll talk more about that. There's a whole other episode of this where we'll talk about like, where do you go from there? Like, you know, how do you get past the open mic scene and do more than just open mics? But it was, I think I said in a previous episode that maybe the common thread through my life is being extremely eager and naive. And I'd say that this was maybe another example of that. You know, it wasn't quite what I expected. It was interesting. I did what I wanted to do, and clearly it did like nothing for my comedy career, so to speak. But that's what it's like to go perform at an open mic. So I'd still recommend you do it if it's something you've ever been interested in doing. You know, even just to try it, like, yeah, write a 3 to 5 minute bit. Be ready to tailor it a bit, because some places you don't know. Like you'll get there and your time on stage will vary based on how many other comics there are. So they'll tell you 5 minutes, or their site will say every comic gets 5 minutes, and we cap the list at 20. No joke, this happened. And then you get there, and they're like, and make sure you show up early to get on the list because we cap it at 20. And you get there and you're like number 8 on the list to sign up, and then they're like, by the way, you get 3 minutes and 20 seconds because now we have 30 people on the list. And you're like, I planned for 5 minutes, right? So you have to have some flexibility in your material too, right? And maybe at the beginning that means having a 3 minute bit and a 5 minute bit and a 4 minute bit. Or maybe it means like having places where you can expand or contract, you know, tell different parts of the story depending on how much time you have. But the whole experience is pretty wild. But I'll say it's nobody I saw bombed either. Like that was, I expected some people to just really suck. And one of the interesting things about being in a comedy club is that like people are there to see comedy. So they tend to be pretty open. They're looking for a laugh. It's not a difficult laugh to get usually. I didn't see anyone really bomb, but I also didn't see a lot of people that were very good. Like that surprised me too. Some of the things that really surprised me are that most of the comics that got up, they seemed like they had not practiced and like they hadn't actually written their material. In other words, their writing process was just to get up on stage in front of people, kind of say whatever came to mind, and the things that got laughs, they sort of like stick in a drawer and pull those out next time they go on stage. And their whole act is these collection of sort of weird one-liners that don't really fit together. They're not really part of a larger narrative. There's no big punchline at the end. It's just, here's a thing that other people kind of found funny. Here's another one. Here's something I'm going to try. That one's not funny. Now I'm going to go back to another one people have found funny before. So the same people go over and over and over again, and they don't appear to do a lot of iteration, writing, practicing between, which really shocked me. And it meant that, and I know how arrogant this sounds and probably is, but it gave me the feeling that as somebody who had written my bit and tried to make it sort of this like this encapsulated, self-contained bit of humor that had a larger narrative and had like a punchline at the end, and where I'd practiced it so that it was practically beat perfect, I'd practiced my delivery in front of a camera. I knew which hand motions I was going to use when, and like all of that, and expressions, and then to get in this place where like I felt like this little 3-minute bit I had at least refined like crazy, and everything else was just totally unrefined chaos by all these other comedians. I was sort of like, all right, most of these people suck. Like that was just kind of where I went to. Or maybe they didn't suck because like they didn't bomb, but they weren't great. They weren't good, and they'd been at it for years. So that was kind of wild too. But anyways, all that to say, again, if you're thinking of doing it, do it. It's actually not like, it's not something to freak out about. Certainly not as much as I did. And you'll probably have a good time. Just don't expect to be instantly recruited to some big firm and have agents. You're not going to have agents chomping at the bit to sign you and all that. But go do it. Have fun if it's ever been something on your mind. Cool. Thanks for watching.